I'm excited to welcome a new sponsor in 2019 to the podcast, pageantswag.com. You see, I've been around the pageant world for some time now, and I have had numerous title holders and guests tell me that there were 0 sites for casual fashion dedicated to you, the pageant lovers. So Pageant Swag decided to solve this problem. They've created this great e-commerce store full of everything from fun graphic t-shirts and crop tops to sweatshirts and hoodies, and they've even got a really cool lineup of both yoga and capri leggings, and it's all focused on you, the pageant lover. Check it out today and use the promo code LIFEAFTERTHECROWN for 10% off your first purchase. Again, that's pageantswag.com. One more time, pageantswag.com.
Hey y'all, it's Miss America 2016, Betty Maxwell, and you're listening to Life After the Crown with Tim Tialdo.
Hey everybody, my name is Tim Tialdo, and welcome to Season 2 of the Life After the Crown podcast. Now, if you haven't had a chance to listen to any of the previous episodes, I do encourage you to go back and listen because there are many valuable interviews that you will definitely gain some wisdom from. Now, for those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, welcome and thanks for checking us out. Each episode of Life After the Crown, I interview former pageant contestants, title holders, and women of influence who share advice and stories on how to help you succeed in the world of pageants, but more importantly, how you can flourish in the professional world once your pageant journey comes to an end. As always, I appreciate you taking the time to download this podcast. I do value your time, and I'm glad you're here listening. So let's get started.
Your new Miss America is Miss Georgia, Betty Cantrell.
That is host Chris Harrison naming Betty Maxwell Miss America 2016 in Atlantic City. She was only the second Miss Georgia, by the way, to ever take home the title of Miss America. After her year as Miss America, she came out with her first album called Nicotine, which is available on iTunes and Spotify. And she certainly isn't short on other talents either. She now works as a motivational speaker, an actress, a model, a pageant coach and consultant, a makeup enthusiast, a soon-to-be-published author, and she continues to travel the country astounding audiences with her vocal performances of all genres. She lives in Atlanta with her husband, business manager, and personal bodyguard, by the way, that's pretty cool, Spencer, and their 2 teacup Yorkies, Moose and Batman. It's been a while since I've had a Miss America on, so it's so great to welcome Betty Maxwell to the podcast. How are you?
I am doing great. I love that I'm only your second Miss America, or not only your second, but your first in a long time. That's so cool. I'm really, really proud to be on the podcast. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and I'm thinking you're third, actually. So I had Mallory Hagan and Erica Dunlap on before. And then
wow,
I believe I have Savvy
cool.
Shields coming up here in a few weeks, so I'm excited about that.
Yes, I just spoke with Savvy, and she was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to be on with Tim Tialdo, too, right after you are. So I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm running the Miss America circuit here, apparently.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, just by that intro alone, we can all tell how talented you are, and anybody that saw your Miss America performance knows that as well. So I certainly, as we go through the podcast here, want to get into all those areas, but tell everybody what you've been doing since you gave up the crown of Miss America and what's going on in the Betty Maxwell household.
Oh my goodness. So I've been up to so much, and I was talking, I think it was with Savvy the other day. We were on the phone and I was telling her, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I was only 21 when I won the title of Miss America. And now I'm 24. I'm going to be 25 September 1st. So it's like, oh my gosh, how has it been that long? How has it already been almost 4.5, 5 years since I won Miss America? That just blows my freaking mind. Like, I cannot believe it. Making me feel old over here. But anyway, but I've been up to so much since Miss America. And yes, it feels like it was just yesterday, but at the same time, forever ago. It's crazy. But I've since then moved to Nashville and moved back to Atlanta. We lived in Nashville for 2 years, me and my then fiance, Spencer, now husband. But we lived in Nashville for 2 years where I recorded my first album and got my music career kind of off the ground with my producer in Nashville. And then we ended up moving back to Atlanta once we got married because we wanted to buy a house and we wanted to be a little bit closer to our family, but still, close enough to the airport and to, the busy life of Atlanta where we could still do all of our traveling and everything. And then recently, I actually was signed with J. Purvis Talent Agency in Atlanta and Click Modeling Agency in Atlanta. So that's the acting and modeling that I've been doing. Been doing lots of really cool things with them. And then obviously still continue traveling, doing lots of events and appearances, motivational speaking, performing, concerts, all kinds of stuff. And then obviously I've got my book coming out in October, my personal autobiography that I'm so excited about, and it's actually available for pre-order right now on Amazon. So I'm so excited. Lots of big things.
Wow, such a boring lifestyle, Betty.
So boring. So boring.
Well, yeah, so I want to get into all that, but as with everybody I have on, especially when it comes to national title holders and somebody especially in the America system, I do want to talk about just the whole experience of going through the Miss America system, obviously winning the national crown and just what that was all like. So take me back to when you started competing and really why that happened.
So I actually did not have a typical pageant story like most pageant girls. I started doing pageants when I was 19. So I was kind of a really late bloomer. And it was really intimidating being so late coming into the game because, when you first start out, all the girls you're competing with have been doing it their whole lives. And, they've been preparing for this moment, to compete on the state level and the national level. And you're just coming in like, oh, I'm such a noob, like everybody knows how to do this except me, and because there is such a way about it, there's so much to learn. And it really is like its own game. You have to learn the ins and outs and, how to be a pageant girl, it's crazy. And so I was so late coming into it. I really did feel like an outcast, like out of place. So, but I really just kind of fell into it. My mom it was during my freshman year of college, and my mom met the local director for the Miss Warner Robins pageant, which is my hometown. And she asked my mom, why doesn't Betty compete in pageants? And my mom's like, well, to be honest, we've just never even thought about it. Like it never even crossed our minds. And I was totally unaware of this whole pageant world that existed. And she said, well, Betty could do pageants. She's pretty and she can walk in high heels. Like she can do it. She can talk, right? And my mom was like, well, I'll ask her about it. So my mom asked me about it, and I immediately was like, no, I am not a pageant girl. I am not doing this. Like, Mom, why would you even ask? And I grew up on a farm, so I've just never been interested. And I didn't think of myself as a pageant girl. I truly believed in the pageant stereotypes, the, mean, catty girls who are very superficial and shallow. And and I truly believed that. And I just was like, no, I'm not like that. I wouldn't fit in with that group. And then my mom told me about, the opportunities to sing in front of audiences. It's about the talent competition, which I've always loved singing. Since I was 3 years old, I knew I wanted to be a singer and an actress. I've never wavered on that my whole life. And so that really caught my attention, that there was a talent competition. And then, of course, the scholarships. I was a freshman in college, so I was like, okay, I can win some scholarships, get some recognition for my talent. Like, that would feel pretty good. So, yeah, I'll try it. So I ended up trying the Miss Warner Robins pageant. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no coaching. I had no preparation. I wore my Aunt Dodie's evening gown from, like, the 80s, maybe the 70s. I'm not really sure, actually, from back when she competed in pageantry. And so that was my evening gown. All the other girls were wearing, Sherry Hill, Giovanni, all the, big wigs. And I hadn't even heard of Sherry. I hadn't even heard of Sherry Hill at this point in my life. So, I was so out of place, Tim. It was crazy. And but I ended up being first runner-up. And I was like, and I won overall talent. So I was like, okay, maybe I should try again. I'll try again, and we'll see what happens. And I was first runner-up again at another local pageant. And I did another pageant. After that one, another local in Atlanta, and I was first runner-up again, won talent. And I was like, okay, this is kind of getting irritating. Now I kind of want to win. Like, what's going on? Right when I was about to give up, one of the field directors for that area in Georgia was like, Betty, you need to try one more time. I really see a lot of potential in you. Just try this one more local. And I did it, and I won, and I was so excited. But then that meant that I had to go compete at Miss Georgia. And I was like, crap, I should probably get some coaching because I have no idea what I'm doing here. And so I finally, started working with the directors from my local, and they taught me everything there was to know. And I really, started becoming kind of passionate about it because I picked my platform, Healthy Children, Strong America. And I really, really liked the idea of being this role model in this organization and having that title and actually being able to influence people. And so I was second runner-up my first year at Miss Georgia as Miss Presidential Pathways, and I was overall talent winner. And so I decided I was like, I have to come back. I have to try again. I was second runner-up my first time. And so I went back and actually won Miss Warner Robins, my first local that I tried in my hometown, went back to Miss Georgia my second time and won Miss Georgia, and then went on to win Miss America.
And here you are.
And here I am today. Long story short, basically.
Well, no, and it's really good because I think what you said, you grew up on a farm. Probably, I would guess you were a tomboy.
I was always half and half. Like you would see me like 5 years old, naked, playing in the dirt. And then you would see me at dinner time. I would make my mom announce me for dinner. Like literally, I would make my mom, I would put on my nicest dress, like princess dress, and then I'd tell my mom, okay, I'm ready. And she would say, announcing Betty Cantrell for dinner. Like, I am not even kidding. And so, I really always dabbled in both. I always loved, being the farm girl and being on the tractor and shooting guns with my dad. But I also loved makeup and dressing up and singing. So I was always half and half.
Well, I'd love to know this because I think since you've gotten into pageants and just I would say in the last 5 years here, I mean, there are so many organizations for pageants anymore. I mean, it's like a sampler platter when you go out there. It's like you can participate in whatever. At the time, why did you choose America over any other? At that point, was it just because it was the best, most well-known one, or?
It was because that woman her name is Marcy Waugh. She was the local director for Miss Warner Robins, and it was because she was the one who approached my mom. Like, that's really, honestly, the only reason, because I honestly didn't even know that there were so many pageant systems at that point. Like I said earlier, I didn't even know this whole pageant universe existed. It is like another world that a lot of people don't know exists and until you're brought into it. So I didn't even know there were so many other pageant systems to choose from. I just chose this one because it was what was presented to me. And I was really intrigued by the talent competition, to be honest, because I'm just, I just love performing so much.
Well, and you mentioned something that I hear from a lot of title holders, and that is, when you were first approached about it, it was like, hell no, I am not a pageant girl. I don't want any part of this. I would love to know, you kind of mentioned what the stereotype is, and that's very true. That's always been the narrative and the stereotype. After you got into it and you experienced it, what was the difference between what you thought and what it actually was?
Honestly, I feel like the stereotype doesn't come from nowhere. It obviously stems from something very real, but I would not say that is what the whole of pageantry is. What I've experienced in pageantry, yes, there will always be those girls who are not very nice. There will always be the mean girls, the shallow girls, but that is not the majority. That is a very small minority. And you're going to find that anywhere in life. There will always be bullies. There will always be mean people in the world. And but in pageantry, I've experienced some of the closest friendships that I've ever made. I had 3 of my Miss America sisters in my wedding as bridesmaids, which I was one of those girls that was like, scoff, whatever. I am not, heck no, they're not. Are you kidding? I am not meeting my bridesmaids at 2 weeks at Miss America. Like, no way. And here I am, with 3 of them in my wedding. It's crazy. You meet the sweetest, most talented, smartest girls, because the girls competing in pageants are not what people think. They're not airheaded. The girls who compete in pageants have to be smart. You have to be, or you will not succeed. And it's crazy because people really don't know this. But the girls I've met have really made me want to be better, made me want to strive for greatness, strive for more, just so I can, be like them. I want to grow up and be smart like Miss America, because she speaks and she's all over the country performing and, giving these keynote addresses. And you have to be smart to do this. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't know, and something I for sure didn't know when I first started. So I definitely learned that the stereotype just really doesn't hold up whatsoever. And I personally made it my mission to disprove that stereotype and be the opposite of that during my year as Miss America.
Well, I think you did a great job. I had a chance to watch your pageant last night. Of course, the Atlantic City pageant there with I've been to that venue. That runway is just simply fantastic. I mean, it couldn't be more perfect
epic
for pageants, and I'm sure it's epic to walk down it with the crown on your head.
Oh, my goodness.
But, watched you go through the pageant. You had such excitement every time you got announced. I mean, you were like, woo! I mean, we were ready to go. And, Chris Harrison announces you Miss America. I guess I would just love to know, the moment obviously is kind of the same for everybody. It's indescribable. You can't really tell anybody until they go through it. But talk about the year and actually being Miss America, because everybody dreams of it and they talk about it and they say, this is my total goal in life right now. The realities of it from your standpoint.
This is something I talk about in depth in my book. And it's something that, like you said, you really cannot fathom what it's really like unless you've been there, unless you've done it. And, especially, today, Miss America isn't even what it was like when I was Miss America. It's changed so much now. I don't even recognize it, but that's another story. That's another story. We're not even going there yet. But, when I was Miss America, #OG Miss America, it was traveling every single day. I was on a plane. I was at the airport pretty much every 2 days, traveling somewhere new. The whole Miss America travels 20,000 miles per month was very accurate during my year. And I'm sure, as you know, but some people may not, when you're a singer and you win Miss America, you're twice as busy, because the singers have the ability to perform wherever they go. When you're a dancer or a musician, or, you have some other sort of talent, it's kind of hard for you to get bookings based on your talent, but people love booking Miss America to sing the national anthem. And I can't tell you how many times I sang the national anthem during my year. I mean, it had to have been at least 200 times, at least. It was crazy. So Just keeping up that schedule of traveling pretty much every 2 days, being at the airport all the time, living in hotels. I mean, Miss USA gets an apartment. Miss America does not. Miss America lives in hotel rooms her whole year. You live out of 2 suitcases. You're shipped new clothing from the clothing sponsor. Well, we used to have a clothing sponsor. Now, I don't know.
I think they ruined that.
I think they blew it. So the clothing sponsor would ship you clothes. You send all the clothes that you've already worn. You put them in the box, ship them back. And you don't get to choose what you wear. It's whatever they send. That's what you have to wear. That's what you have in your 2 suitcases. And then you're speaking and performing. Well, I was performing and speaking pretty much every single event. So it wasn't just, meet and greet and a short speech. It was perform 2 songs, speak, meet and greet. So it was just double. And, they would say, Miss America really isn't supposed to have appearances that last longer than 4 hours. I always had days that stemmed from 6 to 12 hours. I mean, you're just working. And those are really more the realistic parts of being Miss America. But there are other realities, like the little kids, the faces that you get to meet, and the impressions that you leave, and just walking into a room with that crown on your head and just seeing the faces light up in the schools, in the hospitals, wherever you're going, just the impact that you have as Miss America with that crown on your head. People notice, people listen. And I took that so much to heart that, wow, I have a voice with this crown on my head. But what I learned even more than that was I have a voice without this crown on my head. It really taught me to appreciate what I bring to the table, what I bring to the title, what I bring to the world. I have a message and I have something to say. And my message mainly was, not only my platform, Healthy Children, Strong America, but also being yourself, loving yourself. If I hadn't been 100% Betty Cantrell, clumsy and, whatever, answering that Tom Brady question, which I still don't know the answer, I wouldn't have won Miss America. If I hadn't tripped in my evening gown, I wouldn't have won Miss America. And I truly believe that, because the judges saw that real girl inside of me. And then, that even though I tripped, I laughed it off. I was just 100% me. And that's why I won Miss America. And that was, the story that I told everywhere I went. If you're not 100% yourself, you will not succeed in life. Your unique abilities are what make you special. And, even my clumsiness made me special. So that was something that I really loved talking about during my year.
And I think you actually had a chance to talk to one of your judges. I think you made an appearance with Kevin O'Leary,
yes.
Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank.
Yes, I did. And we got to present an award. I can't remember which one it was. Was it the AMAs? I'm not sure. But I got to talk to my judges right after I won, all of them. And Brett Eldridge was the first one to come up to me, because he asked me the Tom Brady question. Mm-hmm. And he comes up to me and he goes, "Betty, I am so sorry about that question."
Because it's not his. He's basically handed the question.
Right, exactly. He was like, "I promise you I did not write that question. They gave us the questions, but as soon as I read it, I felt so sorry for whoever got it." And I was like, "It's okay, Brett. We can still be friends. Like, it's okay." But the judges actually told me, because after I won, I went up to them and I asked them, I was like, how did I win? I truly didn't believe I was going to win because of that question and tripping in my evening gown. And I don't know if you know this, but I had earrings falling off all night. Like, it was just crazy. And they told me, "Betty, you were the realest one. We could relate to everything that you did that night. We could relate." And we knew that that's what Miss America needs to be. Somebody relatable, the girl next door that, any little girl can look up to and be like, "Oh, if she can win Miss America, I can win Miss America." And I took that with me my entire year and spoke that truth to every hopeful little girl that I met.
Well, you mentioned one of the things that you go through when you hit that national stage, you get into the top 10, top 15, top 5, is the question. Yours was a Tom Brady-based question, but I think one of the critiques that the world outside of pageants always has about pageants is that if it's called a beauty pageant, and it is about beauty and intelligence and, all these other areas that come into play, the talent, why is it that somebody like you is asked to solve the world's problems and only has 20 seconds to do it? I think that's been always one of the critiques. And I would love to know from your standpoint, do you like the fact that it's so difficult when they get to those top 5 questions, or would you prefer that it changed a little bit more to maybe show more personality or just something different?
I would love for it to have been more about personality, something personal that we could share, because everyone in the world knows that we all want world peace, like end all, be all, end game. Yes, we all want world peace. We all want to, make the world a better place. So I feel like those answers are so expected. So I do feel like it should be more personal. And, I studied so hard for that moment, because I just expected political questions. That's what it always is. It's current events. And I studied and studied, because it's not just for that. It's for the interview portion too. You have to study and prepare. And to get a question about whether or not Tom Brady cheated was just such a letdown for me. I was like, man, all that studying, why wasn't I just watching football? I would have been so much better prepared. So I just felt that was just not fair for me in that moment. But, I just accepted it. That's what happened. I definitely cried a little bit after that because I just knew I hadn't won. I knew that blew it for me. But, another thing, for an example, the reason, or not the reason, but the excuse for getting rid of swimsuit, or one of the examples for giving up the swimsuit competition, which I'm very sad about, is that Miss America never wears a swimsuit during her year, so why do we need a swimsuit competition? Well, I should say the same thing for the onstage question. I mean, they're quizzing us on political questions and current events, yet while I was Miss America, if I was asked a political question, my tour manager was quick to cut me off and say, no, don't answer that. So I wasn't allowed to talk about my political views, my thoughts on current events during my year as Miss America. It's almost like you're silenced, or they take away your voice when it comes to those important issues. Yeah. But they want you to answer it in 20 seconds in front of millions of people, of course. So things like that it's kind of hypocritical, and it's very irritating to have to be put on the spot in front of millions of people. And, half the country's going to hate your answer and half the country's going to love your answer. So it's really hard.
Well, I want to hit on something that you brought up. I certainly don't want to get too far into it, but last week I did I did a state of pageantry podcast with Ebony Williams. We talked about, the state of pageants in general, not just Miss America, but we did hit on that. And of course, the leadership change and everything that you just mentioned about swimsuit and all that kind of stuff. As a former Miss America who went through the system and had certain things that you loved about it and obviously aspired to be, you mentioned earlier that you don't recognize it anymore. Are we filtering way too far into political, social, culture movements and feminism and getting rid of what it's all about?
100%. Yes. I really, it's heartbreaking for me. It's really sad because Miss America is history. It is tradition. And that's what it is. And when you take that away, what is it anymore? If you take away what it all started with, a swimsuit competition, that's all it was when it started. When you take that away, and that's just one thing that's been taken away, it's ever changing. Every day I look at my phone and I have some notification, some text from someone about what they've changed now, what's different now. And it's almost like now it's like they're just, yes, daily. And it's like, oh, well, it can't get worse. Oh, but then I wake up the next morning and something else happened and it gets worse and worse and worse. And it's so sad for me and previous Miss Americas because we know what it takes to be Miss America. And it's almost like they're making it easier. They're making it more average. They're making it so that, and yes, any girl who puts in the work can be Miss America. 100% I believe that. But it shouldn't just be anybody. It should be someone who is worthy, who does put in the work, who has been through what it takes to prepare for something of that level. Not anyone can just go compete in the Olympics. You have to prepare. They should make the Olympic trials easier so that more people can be in the Olympics. Then it wouldn't be the Olympics. So I feel like that's what's happening. And yes, with the whole feminism thing that you were talking about, I would definitely consider myself a feminist, 100%. But there's this point where it gets to be radical. There's this point where it gets to be, there's a difference between equality and, being a man hater, for instance. Mm-hmm. So it's just, and that's, I feel like the point that we're getting at, that radical feminism where the Me Too movement is just, kind of pushing it too far, where Miss America isn't supposed to be a Me Too movement. It's supposed to just empower women. It's supposed to be a challenge that, we crown and we honor the most ideal woman. She is the ideal from the song, which I'm sure the song offends them now. Probably. They're probably really offended by the song. And it's just too much. Like, we just want it to be how it was. Yes, we needed branding help. Yes, we needed marketing help. But now we need help with everything. Everything's a mess.
You need to build it from the ground up.
Exactly. They're changing things for the sake of change, like changing our platforms. They've changed that to be social impact initiative. Like, why? Why couldn't it just be a it's just, I don't understand. They just want to change things just to change.
Well, yeah. And, I saw a video the other day that kind of really describes people on, we'll call it that side of the movement. It was an old, I think it was right around the time you were crowned. It was do you know the John Oliver show? I think it's called Last Week or something.
I don't think so.
It was like this 15-minute segment. You were actually in it. Talking about the Miss America system and how they were fleecing the scholarship numbers. But then it went into just talking about the beauty part of it. And he had a shot of Chris Harrison walking along all of you on the stage saying, "Welcome to the Miss America pageant." And they paused it and he's like, how the hell does something like this even occur anymore where we're putting women up on a stage? And I think it's sad that they look at it like it's a meat market because
Right.
You know, even you as somebody who were standing up there, I know that's not how you look at it, but that's the perception from the radical, angry feminist side of the movement. And I think they're standing it for everybody else. And I wish they would stand up to it, because what you mentioned earlier was exactly true. They're trying to please everybody. And by trying to please everybody, they're pleasing nobody. And, you know, again, if you want to compete, guess what? It's hard work. It's not for everybody. Yep. It shouldn't be for everybody. And if it is, I mean, then what the hell's the point of a pageant?
Exactly. You know, there comes a point in time where you have to accept it's a competition. One girl is going to win out of the thousands that are competing to be on that stage. And, you know, it's just like what you said with, you know, the swimsuit competition. You know, they're trying to please everybody, and in the end, they're pleasing no one. Girls have been competing in this pageant for almost 100 years. And now, when everything's starting to change, we've seen numbers lower than they've ever been. Atlantic City doesn't even want them anymore. And Atlantic City needs Miss America. You know, that's one of their biggest attractions. And they're even saying, you know what? No, like we can't. And it's so sad, because that is our home. Atlantic City is the home of Miss America, and it holds so many special memories for me. And just the fact that Atlantic City doesn't even recognize Miss America anymore is just, it's so sad.
Yeah, what is it, like the Mohegan Sun, and where is it this year?
In Connecticut.
Yeah, I mean,
in
where
Connecticut,
is
that? In the winter, December, right before Christmas. I mean, the same night as Miss Universe. I just don't, on a Thursday, like I could keep going on, on and on and on. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And it's just heartbreaking, because I just want Miss America back. And like I said, girls have been competing in this for 100 years almost. And by the thousands, the numbers have never wavered. And now all of a sudden, the numbers have dropped considerably. Local pageants are dropping out. Like, we lost, I think, 3 or 4 locals in Georgia this year. Mm-hmm. And I keep hearing rumors of things that are going to be happening this year with Miss America, you know, and I'm not going to talk about them because I don't know if they're true, but I keep hearing things that are just making me even sadder. And it's just like, why is this happening? And, you know, we all signed that petition back when the leadership, you know, was first changed, and we all realized how bad it was getting. And we were like, okay, let's all sign a petition. Let's raise money. We had hundreds of thousands of signatures, and they still wouldn't step down. Yeah. So I just don't understand who they think they're pleasing here.
Well, I'll tell you who they're pleasing: themselves. And that's the unfortunate truth of it right now. Is I think what's happening inside the Miss America organization in particular, it's a lot like our government and politics. I mean, the people have to rise up inside the organization and say, we're taking this thing back, because right now it's a dictatorship, and it needs to be a democracy. And
people are afraid.
I would love to see people like all of you former Miss Americas just rise up and say, you know what? Either it's going to die on the vine right now the way it's going, or we're going to take it back and rebuild it back up to something of, because it's not just tradition. I mean, Miss America, I was born in 1977. That thing is an iconic thing in America. It's not just a pageant. It's like it was a big deal, and it still should be.
Right. And, you know, taking away the swimsuit competition because some man might objectify us, you know, it's just like,
welcome to the world.
Welcome. Hello. Yes, this is the world. Like I said earlier, there will always be bad people in this world. Always. You can't do anything about it. But I'm certainly not going to let some person out there keep me from rocking a swimsuit on national television. Like, that is empowering. That is why I got in shape in the first place. You know, before I started competing in MAO, I didn't care about my body or what I looked like. But then I said, oh my gosh, I have to compete in a swimsuit competition. I better start getting in shape. I better start taking care of myself. That is why I have the body I have today. Why I started working out, why I started caring about what I ate was because of that swimsuit competition. And now I just feel like that motivation is gone for girls, you know, to take care of themselves. And that was something so huge for me personally, and why I started taking care of myself. It makes me so sad. But just to take it away because some person might objectify us out there, girls know what they're signing up for. For almost 100 years, girls know I'm signing up to walk in a swimsuit, and I am proud of that.
Well, and I think that's the one thing that I don't think a lot of people understand is for a ton of you, and I'm not saying everybody, you want to be seen in a swimsuit. Let's be honest.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's Instagram today. Everybody wants to be seen like that.
Absolutely. And you know, what they should have done is they should have gotten someone like Ashley Graham, who is rocking her body as a plus size woman in swimsuits, in lingerie, as a model. She's incredible. And Miss USA has utilized her a ton, and it's been amazing. We need people like Ashley Graham out there saying, we want you plus size girls. We want you girls of all shapes and sizes to come compete in our pageant. Pageant, yes, I said it. Pageant is not a bad word. We want you girls to come compete. We're not going to say that we're going to take this away so that you can compete. We want you in a swimsuit. We want you to feel confident and love yourself and rock it on this stage. That is what they should have done. And instead, they made it sound like we don't want to see plus size girls in swimsuits, which is so messed up. And that is the way it's coming across to me.
Well, and, you know, they're never going to get what they're after. And I think they're after like a moral utopia. Like it's going to be this perfect heavenly place at one point where everybody's accepted and there's no bad blood between it. It's just never going to happen. And
Never.
But
like I said, there will always be bad people in the world.
And that's confirmed in the Bible, by the way. I mean, it's an eternal fact. I mean, it's just part of what it is. But look, I appreciate you sharing all that. I certainly don't want to take up the whole hour bashing the organization.
Yeah,
but I
know.
think
We could talk for hours on
I know. And I guarantee you every Miss America I have on is probably going to be the same way. And I love that because I think it's important that the world hears this. I mean, I'm sure for every Miss America girl listening right now, they're going, you go, Betty. You go. Keep saying it. Keep doing it. And I love it.
Oh, my goodness. I hope so. I do pray that one day we can get it back to its former glory. And
I hope so, too. And I'm obviously a very vocal advocate of that, and I hope it happens. And I'll certainly be on the forefront of the battle if I can be.
Awesome.
Okay. So let's talk about your life, and in particular, your music. Now, anybody that saw Miss America heard the incredible pipes that you have and the operatic music that you were singing, but you have this other side in which the first time I heard your music, at least for me, the person that came to mind is you sound like Carrie Underwood. And I was like,
wow.
Oh,
my goodness, thank you.
Yeah, incredible. I listened to your Nicotine album, and I was just blown away. And I can't imagine you not succeeding. So let's talk about your music career and kind of what's happening there.
Well, thank you so much for saying I sound like Carrie Underwood. She's one of my music idols, so thank you. So I've been studying classical voice since I was 14. I started working with the head of the vocal department of Wesleyan College in Georgia, and when I was 14 years old. And so that was my 8th grade year. And then so through high school, I continued working with her. And then, of course, when I went to college, I was a vocal performance major, so I continued working at Mercer University with another vocal coach. But so I've been studying classical voice since age 14, and so that's why I chose classical opera for Miss America and Miss Georgia. I just feel like that, like opera, just it requires a certain skill level that I really feel like I don't know. It shows a certain skill level on the stage. You know, when you're performing your talent, instead of doing a Broadway piece or a country piece, which I also love singing. I just felt like choosing opera was just kind of like, okay, here's what I can do. So, but it was hard for me to choose. I obviously asked or sought the help of many different people on what I should sing, but Thomas Barnett, I don't know if you know him.
I know who he is. I don't know him personally.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, he's actually who definitely chose opera for me, was like, you need to sing opera. And he chose my song, Tutu Piccolo Idio, which I just was in love with. And I sang that at Miss Georgia both years and at Miss America. And always won talent with it. It never failed me. But now I've sort of moved away from opera just because it's not my favorite genre to sing. Yes, I can sing it and I love to sing it, but I really, really love Broadway. I love belting. I love those high belt notes in the country music genre. I just love it. So when I first moved to Nashville, I wanted to sing country music. And I recorded my album with my producer, Steve Ivey, who I met while I was Miss America. And he and I recorded my entire album, and I actually wrote 2 of the songs on my album, so I'm including the song Nicotine and then another song called Sway, which was mine and Spencer's first dance at our wedding. That I actually wrote that without Spencer. So
Oh, that's
it was
cool.
really sweet. It was really cool. I did not sing it at our wedding. It was just the recording of me singing it. A lot of people asked me, did I sing at my wedding? And I was like, heck no.
There's enough pressure that day.
Yeah, I just, you know what? I perform for a living. I don't want to perform at my wedding. I didn't want to be like, even though your wedding is supposed to be all about you, I didn't want to be like, it's all about me. I don't know. It was weird. But anyway, so I recorded my album and, wrote those songs, and I really, really was so proud of it. But I realized more and more that, it's really hard to make money in the music industry because, people get their music for free now. And it's the music industry has changed so much, and people don't pay for music anymore. They get their music for free, Pandora, Spotify, all of that. So I started, focusing on my acting and modeling and speaking and my book, and started really moving towards those other genres of my life. And I really want to pursue those as hard as I can and make it as big as I can so that one day I can go back to my singing and put all of my focus on that so that I can actually make a living singing and acting. I would love to be in one of those, one of the Disney live action movies. I'm so happy that those are happening because it's like my singing and acting are coming together in such a cool way through those films. And I would love, I'm getting so many cool auditions through my agency. And I think my dream would be to be in a Disney live action film. That would just, that would be the end all be all for me.
Yeah, and look, Atlanta's not a bad place to be. It's basically Hollywood Plan B at this point. I mean, Atlanta has really blown up over these last, 5 to 10 years.
It is, and that was such a huge reason why I was so okay with buying a house in Atlanta because, Nashville's like L.A. now. It's so expensive. It's crazy. And so I was like, you know what? I don't even mind moving back to Atlanta because that is like Hollywood now. I mean, more films are being filmed in Atlanta than in LA now. So it's crazy. So definitely staying busy out here. And I have very high hopes with my agency and getting more and more parts. So it's been really fun. I've done some really cool commercials so far and some really cool auditions for some TV shows. So it's been really, really interesting. And something I've definitely learned throughout my time doing music, doing acting, modeling, all of that is being able to take no as an answer, being able to be rejected and be okay with it. You have to, it really builds a thick skin. I've been rejected so many times. And, a lot of people don't know that, don't see that because, social media is 10% of our lives. And, most people only share the good. But I've actually, I've been rejected many, many times, been told, no, you're not what we're looking for. And that's really hard, but it's definitely made me tougher. It's made me build a thick skin. And, the fact that I haven't given up yet, I'm really proud of myself. And I'm just going to keep pushing for it as long as I can. And that's what I tell, everyone that I meet, all my followers, all the girls I met while I was Miss America, don't give up on your dreams because you're going to be told no so many times, but that's no reason to give up. You just have to keep trying, pick yourself back up and begin again and begin again. God is still good. He's still with you.
Well, speaking of your personal experiences, you mentioned earlier you have a book that is out for pre-order right now on Amazon, and I know you're very excited about the release of this. So number one, can you tell everybody the name of the book? And then number two, tell us what it's all about.
Absolutely. So my book is called Miss Unlikely, and Miss Unlikely is my autobiography, obviously, and it actually says Miss Unlikely from Farm Girl to Miss America. So it's just the story of my life, and I'm using it as sort of a motivational, inspirational book. And I'm the way I'm doing that is I'm using the stories from my life from literally my birth to current day, present day, and I'm using all those stories to my mishaps, my struggles, my dark times, my awesome times, my failures, my successes, wins, losses. I'm using all those stories to hopefully relate to kids today, anyone who picks up my book, to be able to read my stories and relate them back to their own personal lives and be like, oh, okay, well, this is how she dealt with this everyday issue. So maybe I'm going to try it that way. Or she got through this dark time. Maybe I can get through mine. And I feel like my stories are so relatable. I talk about everything from my awkward phase in middle school to my first kiss to boys, boyfriends, how to find the right guy for you. You know, it's really a self-help book through all of my failures in life. So all of my embarrassing moments, let them comfort you and help you get through your embarrassing moments. So it's a very vulnerable position for me. I keep talking about that on my Instagram about my book. It's more vulnerable position than I've ever been in. More vulnerable than walking in a swimsuit in front of millions of people. Just opening up my life to the world, basically, telling them stories that I don't think most people know about me. You know, just breakups in high school and, you know, liking a boy who had a girlfriend, you know, just things like that seem so trivial and everyday, but they're things that in today's society, kids struggle with so much because of the pressures of social media and the pressures of, you know, being a kid in this technological age. I feel like they need somebody to look to for help in those small things, you know, because of those pressures. So even talking about, like I said, like my first kiss and how did I feel about that and how did I think it was going to be like and what was it actually like? Things as simple as that, I feel like is really going to help kids today who are struggling with this, like I said, social media age.
Well, you mentioned that, you know, 10% of our lives is social media. Most people only put out the things that are, you know, their highlight reel, of course. They don't want anybody to know about their insecurities. What I love about what you're doing in the book is, and this is something that I had talked about with another author that I had on by the name of Heather Monahan, is that when you basically admit all of your insecurities, all the things that you've struggled with in your life, it puts you in a position of power because now those things that you're worried that people might, you know, accuse you of or make fun of you for or any of that, it's all out there. And you can be like, yeah, I already said that. I know. Don't worry. And it puts you in a place where it's like, now I'm powerful because you have nothing on me. I already know what my faults are. What else do you have? And I think it's great that you kind of show that to other people on how to do that.
Exactly. And I did that with, you know, while I was Miss America with tripping in my evening gown, you know, and my Tom Brady question and, you know, losing my earrings twice during the night. I talk about that in every keynote address that I gave while I was Miss America. I talked about, you know, oh my gosh, I tripped in my evening gown, not once, but twice on the runway. You know, it's just things like that where it's like, oh my gosh, that was probably the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to me. It's like the most stereotypical thing you could possibly do is trip in your evening gown on stage and, you know, fumble your football joke, fumble your onstage question. And, you know, talking about those things and just putting your insecurities out there on the table like that, it makes other people feel more comfortable about their insecurities as well. And that's the whole idea behind my book, is just making people feel a little bit less insecure about themselves because guess what? You know, I have some crazy insecurities too. And you might think I'm this perfect Miss America with, you know, a big following on social media and this perfect life, but people don't know half of the things that I've been through or the things that I'm going through, or, you know, even just this past year dealing with my husband's mother's suicide, something like that people just, you know, they don't believe that such horrible things can happen to people who seem to have these perfect lives on social media. When something that hard hits you, you know, it's just nobody knows what that's like. And I did put a chapter in my book about dealing with that alone, you know, just dealing with that as, you know, as a married woman. How did it affect my marriage? How did it affect me? How did it affect my husband? And just how did we get through it? I mean, it was one of the hardest things I've ever been through. And I made sure to put a section in there about that, you know, just really opening up about the hardest parts of my life, just hoping that somebody picks up my book and it helps them too.
Well, look, I am personally appreciative of that because, you know, what you guys dealt with this year. I lost both my parents this year in a matter of 5 months, and I've been very close to the code about it. I haven't talked about it, but yeah, it is like those are the things in life that no one can teach you. You can't go to a class for. You can't take it, you know, anything at a university, and it's like, how do you deal with it? I'm sure I'll come out eventually and talk about it. I haven't really, but I love the fact that you guys are putting that out there because that is such a unique situation that there is no school for it. It's like, you know, Betty can at least tell me what it was like and maybe how I can cope with it. So thank you for that.
Thank you for thanking me. I'm really excited, and I really, really hope that it it does help someone, anyone, if it helps just like one person. And one thing in particular, just about, losing Spencer's mother was just that, how it affected me being the wife. And, a lot of people would think, well, it wasn't your mom. Why is it so hard for you? And I researched so much looking for some kind of book or some article that was just about a wife losing a mother-in-law to suicide. And there was just nothing. There was nothing that I could find that could help me. Like you were saying, there's no school, there's no class, but there are books for people, who have a mother that they lose to suicide, or a brother or a sister, or, whatever. But there's nothing for the wife or from the wife's perspective. And it affected me so deeply. And I just felt so sad for anybody else who may be going through that might be looking for help like I was. And, thankfully, I have my faith that helped me so much. I have my husband, who's just the strongest person I know, and my family. But there are people out there who have no one, who maybe don't have strong faith. And, I made sure that I put that chapter in my book because I know that it would have helped me. And I hope that it will help someone out there who may be struggling with the same thing.
And it is available for pre-order. When is it out live and print and ready to go?
It is going to be out October 1st. And yes, it is available for pre-order right now on Amazon, and it will be in multiple bookstores. I'm not quite sure yet, but I will be announcing all of that very soon. And
I know that you do keep your toe dipped in the pageant world as well. You do some consulting and coaching. Tell everybody how they can contact you if they're interested in that.
Absolutely. And that's another thing I talk about in my book is just all the different coaches that I worked with and how to tell the good coaches from the not so good coaches. And the experience that I had with a not so good coach is what made me want to even be a coach. I just wanted to be a good coach that people can trust is not going to try to change you or mold you into this, cookie cutter pageant girl or tell you what to say, these rehearsed statements that aren't even really her. It's just them changing you. And I dealt with that so much. And I wanted to make sure that I created an outlet for girls who want coaching but don't want to be changed, just want to become better versions of themselves. And that's what made me want to be a coach. So, you can contact me. My email is on my Instagram page. You just tap the email button and, of course, my website, bettymaxwell.net, and contact me. And I would love to work with you and just make you a better you.
And those coaches you were talking about, I think I refer to them as pageant patty coaches because that's basically what they turn you into is the robot of a pageant contestant. Exactly.
And I talk about that so much in my book, even coaches that put you down and make you feel bad about yourself. I had a coach like that, and it's just really, it really rocked my world. And I don't want that, but it's that stereotype that we keep talking about that I'm just dying to break through and make not real. So as in my striving to do that, I started pageant coaching. So I really want girls to have a healthy option for a coach that just honestly wants to help them be better versions of themselves.
Well, there's one more thing I wanted to point people to. I actually ran across it while I was browsing through your website last night, and that is your wedding video. Wow. For all the hopeless romantics who are listening out there, if you want to see a romantic video, you guys nailed it. I don't know what company you worked with, but they did such a good job, and it's just a beautiful video.
Moving Pictures Productions. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. You're so sweet. That I mean, they did do an incredible job. I was blown away. And yeah, Spencer and I don't have a very conventional story. Yeah, we met on Tinder. We're so weird.
Well, that's all right. My wife and I met on Match, so that's cool.
Hey, yes, good for you. But yeah, God has a plan, and that's just the way He wanted us to meet. So that's the way He wanted you and your wife to meet. When you're soulmates, you just know. So yeah, y'all go check out my wedding video. Oh, I'm going to cry.
Well, super happy for the both of you. So at this point, it's time for our Get to Know You rapid fire questions. I know you listened to the Sarah Rose Summer podcast. You kind of heard her go through it. So we'll kind of go through the same thing here. I might even ask you a couple of similar questions that I asked her. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So real quick, Miss America, what is the best thing about winning the national title?
Oh my goodness. The best thing about being Miss America is being able to, the influence that you have. Like I said before, the crown on your head, it is like a microphone and people will listen. And I loved that. I loved being able to spread that message of positivity, putting smiles on the faces of everyone I see just because of that crown on my head and that title. I loved that.
Number 2, biggest area of your life you improved in because of pageantry.
Oh my goodness, my public speaking. I never would have thought I would become a motivational speaker, but because of being Miss America, you're just thrust into this role and all of a sudden you have to be a good speaker. So that definitely gave me more confidence, taught me how to be an independent woman, and definitely my motivational speaking as well.
Awesome. Number 3, who was your idol as a little girl?
Oh my goodness, these are hard questions. My idol, I guess I would say Carrie Underwood, because I just always loved her voice. I always loved her songs and her music, and yeah, I love her, Carrie Underwood.
Perfect. Well, you obviously are doing a good job in that realm.
Thank you.
All right, number 4, if you could compete again, would you do anything differently?
I wouldn't compete in Miss America right now. I would compete in... If I could compete again right now, I would compete at Miss USA.
All right, good. Very good. Number 5, what is your dream job if you aren't already living it?
I am living it. I am living my dream job. I get to work with my husband 24/7. We're together all the time. He's my best friend. I love it. And we're pursuing our dreams together, risking it all to achieve these crazy, outlandish dreams. But, anything's possible if you just put in the work, and we are doing that. So praying that we get to continue this lifestyle.
That is cool. Number 6, is fame all it's cracked up to be?
You know what? Fame is awesome, but like everything, it has its hardships. It has its not so great things. But I love having an influence, like I keep talking about. I love being able to be a source of good, a source of happiness, a source of, spreading God's word. I feel like that's so important. And as a, quote unquote famous person, I wouldn't call myself famous, but whatever.
I'll do it for you.
Thank you. As a former Miss America, let's say it like that, I love being able to be a source of good in the world and using that quote unquote fame to spread God's love and actually just be a light in this dark world.
Number 7, are you a dog or cat person?
Dog. Woo woo. Love my dog.
What kind of dog do you have?
We have 2 teacup Yorkies, Moose and Batman, my practice children, as I call them.
Number 8, have you ever gone to a movie alone?
Never. Oh, I don't think I could ever do that. I would feel so awkward.
Number 9, if after this interview you stepped outside, found a lottery ticket that ends up winning $10 million, what would you do with the money?
Oh my goodness. I would move to Nashville and buy a really big house with some land like I used to live on. Not as much land, not 675 acres, just a big piece of property with some animals and live happily ever after with my husband and travel to Hawaii and Greece.
The fairy tale. I love it. All right, last one, number 10. Name one bucket list item that you still want to accomplish in your life.
Oh, to be a Disney princess. Like, not be a Disney princess at Disney World. I mean, like, to
like
be
live action
a
movie.
Disney princess. Like live action movie of a new Disney princess or, an old Disney princess, or to be the voice of a cartoon new princess that they develop. That is my dream.
Sounds like you're definitely on that path.
Thank you so much.
Well, gosh, this has been really, really fun, and I appreciate how candid, number one, you've been, and just honest about everything, and so excited for what the future holds for you, because like I said, I think you sound like Carrie Underwood. You obviously have so many different talents. You're a beautiful woman. There's just a lot of good things happening for you, and just all the best for you. I'm praying for you.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me on. This has been so much fun. And yes, I think being real and being authentic and candid is the most important thing we can all do and be. So I thank you so much for having me on to share that. And God bless. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to today's episode, everybody, and to Betty Maxwell for her time. Now, if you want to follow Betty's journey, check out her website. It's bettymaxwell.net, or you can follow her on social media at Real Betty Maxwell. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you wouldn't mind, please subscribe. You can do so on Spotify, iTunes, the podcast app, Google Play, and YouTube, or you can just go to lifeafterthecrown.com. And for weekly podcast updates, just follow me on Instagram at Tim Tialdo. Until next time, remember the words of Philippians 4, verses 6 and 7. Don't fret or worry. Instead of worrying, pray. Let petitions and praises shape your worries into prayers, letting God know your concerns. Before you know it, a sense of God's wholeness, everything coming together for good, will come and settle you down. It's wonderful what happens when Christ displaces worry at the center of your life. Talk to you next week, everybody.